Hey everyone, Cooperman here. Remember the good old days when the PlayStation wasn't this, horrible? Back when we had things like Spyro the Dragon and Cash Banuka, and being the best CD-based system on the market allowed things like Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy VII to come into being. You may not know this, but I was never really a Nintendo company man. There was a time where PlayStation was my console of choice. Shocking, right? Well, it really shouldn't be that surprising. There was a point where Sony had the potential to do what Sega and others couldn't, to really challenge Nintendo in their library of gaming giants. They could have been a contender.
You don't understand. I could have had class. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody. Instead of a bum, which is what I am. Let's face it.
And now anytime I see that logo, I want to recoil in anger. For 6 years now, it's been like this. And you want to know?
You don't want to know.
Yeah, I want to know how come.
You want to know?
I want to know how.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. Because you had the talent to become a good fighter. And instead of that, you became a leg breaker. Some cheap, second-rate loan shark.
It's a living?
It's a waste of life.
I really need to rewatch all these boxing movies. But the point still stands. Sony at every corner had something going for them, and every time they bungled it up. But enough getting ahead of ourselves. To really bring this down, you gotta go back to the beginning. No, not to the foundations of Sony as a company. I got another video series that's gonna slightly talk about that. You'll see it when it's done. Anyway, it all started with the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, known in Japan as the Super Famicom, and Nintendo commissioning Sony to develop its superior sound chip to give them the edge over the Sega Genesis and its admittedly weak sound card. This got Sony interested in the gaming scene, and they'd work together with Nintendo for a CD-based add-on for the Super Nintendo to compete with the then upcoming Sega CD. This would be called the Nintendo-Playstation, and they would announce it in the Consumer Electronics shows in 1991. Well, that was the plan. After Sony's presenter finished the pitch for the Nintendo's PlayStation, a spokesman from Nintendo came on stage and, well, they snubbed them. Snubbed them for Philips of all things. Snubbed them right on stage for their competitor. This deal would eventually become what we know now as the Philips CDI, and we all know how that ended. But Sony was not going to take this sitting down. This was a matter of honor at stake, and you know how serious that is in Japan, especially among such large companies. Sony was a big deal. To be treated like such trash was the ultimate disrespect. So, as the old saying goes, don't get mad, get even. They took their plans for a CD-based system and built on it. They formed Sony Computer Entertainment Incorporated and got straight to work so they could compete with Nintendo's new project, the Ultra 64. And as luck would have it, they would actually beat Nintendo to the punch. The Ultra 64 got delayed repeatedly, so Sony Playstation launched and was able to snatch up a lot of early adopter support. They also nailed partnerships for exclusive launches, as they were the easiest console to develop for. The Ultra 64 was released as the Nintendo 64 and did not use CD-ROMs, so it was harder to develop for, and the Sega Saturn was not selling well globally. This was enticing for companies like Konami, Namco, and Square Enix to bring games like Metal Gear Solid, Tekken, and Final Fantasy VII to the system. And they weren't just resting on their third parties either. Sony knew they had to develop a strong first and second party. As such, they hired Universal to create mascot games for them, Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon. The reason why the PlayStation 1 has won the console war of that generation was no accident. Sony absolutely had the potential to surpass the unsurpassable and beat Nintendo at their own game. Cue the PlayStation 2. In the jump to the next generation, Sony made their first big mistake. Remember Crash and Spyro? Yeah, they got sold off. The PlayStation 2 needed an edgy image. They could keep Metal Gear and Final Fantasy because they were cool and mature, but the kiddie platformers, they had to go. In their place, Sony both commissioned and created new mascots. Ratchet and Clank, a cool alien cat guy with a gun and his robot buddy. Sly Cooper, a cool furry raccoon thief with a cane, not a gun. And Jak and Daxter, a blonde elf guy and his best friend in Otzel. Also, he grows a goatee, grabs a gun, and develops an irresistible urge to kill Praxis.
I'm gonna kill Praxis!
Along with their fourth mascot, Kratos, a Greek demigod too angry to die. This set the stage for the new status quo, and it very much was a shot across the bow at Nintendo. Sure, say what you will about Mario and Zelda, but these new Sony series were more mature and cool. Coupled with Zelda Wind Waker being the latest title at this point, which went for a cel-shaded cartoon look. And this isn't to bash the new direction, I've played and adored nearly all of these games. The problem is, well, as C.S. Lewis himself has said, critics who treat the term adult as a term of approval instead of merely as a descriptive term cannot be adult themselves. To be concerned about being grown up, to admire grown up because it is to be grown up, to blush at the suspicion of being childish, these things are marks of childhood and adolescence. And in childhood and adolescence, they are, in moderation, healthy symptoms. Young things all want to grow. But to carry into middle life or even into early manhood with this concern about being adult is really a mark of arrested development. When I was 10, I read fairy tales in secret and would have been ashamed if I had been found doing so. Now that I am 50, I read them openly. When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the fear of childishness and the desire to be very grown up. Mario and Zelda had timeless qualities. So did Crash and Spyro, as evidenced by their modern remaster releases. Abandoning the original mascots for not being mature was a mistake. It would not even be a mistake that Sony would make once. And it wasn't their only issue. While the GameCube had admittedly issues keeping third parties around, Sony wasn't the only quote-unquote cool alternative in the market anymore. Microsoft had debuted their Xbox, which could do everything the PS2 can do, but with inbuilt online multiplayer. That was a very tempting offer to those third parties. So it turned into a blood feud between the two. Or it would have if Sony wasn't laser focused on Nintendo. This would bite them in the butt as they would push out their next console, the PlayStation 3, to be everything the GameCube wasn't. It had everything. Blu-ray capabilities, online gameplay, web browsing, backwards compatibility all the way to the PlayStation 1, and a $600 price tag. No games at launch, and was not all that different at the end of the day from the Xbox 360, aside from not having the same initial launch issues. Issues that were long fixed by the time the PlayStation 3 launched, by the way. They even wiped their slate clean of mascot titles once again, except for God of War, whose last game was left on a cliffhanger, and Ratchet & Clank, which didn't come back at first because the studio was working on Resistance Fall of Man. And in their place were Uncharted, the aforementioned Resistance Fall of Man, Infamous, and Killzone, a game that debuted on the PS2 but was pitched as a Halo killer on the PS3. And it didn't matter anyway because the kiddie franchises of Nintendo and the gimmick of motion control both kicked their ass. Once again, this isn't the bash on the PS3, I mean I had one, or the titles I mentioned. I've played most and enjoyed all of them, but at the cost of the original or even the second generation mascots? This is best exemplified with PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, the Sony mascot fighting game. Well, half of it was third parties and the rest were recent PS3 titles, and a few PS2 classics. No PS1 era except for obscure ones like Parappa the Rappa and Sir Daniel Fortescue. Sony was starting to realize they had to make timeless kiddie games during this time. Hence, this is why we got Little Big Planet. But they were losing their footing and getting tripped up, one, by Nintendo, who, let's face it, they're always gonna despise, but also by Microsoft, who came in out of nowhere and broke their stride a few times, and broke their third-party title monopoly. The HD games were getting put both on Xbox and on PlayStation with very few differences. It made the console wars virtually irrelevant, and some of the gamers were beginning to notice. This was also when PC gaming was making its first renaissance, because at the end of the day, both consoles were just PC towers anyway. Not helping matters is Sony overall as a company lost faith in the PlayStation and shipped Sony Computer Entertainment to their American branch in San Francisco. This opened the door for a lot of Western bullshit to infiltrate the brand, such as Last of Us Part 2. Anyway, this would logically end with either one of two things happening. They would either learn from their follies and make their next console the best one yet, or they would absolutely fail, provided everyone else didn't just fail harder. And everyone did fail harder. Microsoft was so obsessed with making their next Xbox into a cable box, and the Wii U just fell flat on its face. Despite this, the PS4 launched as a game-focused console, but they once again wiped the slate clean of all their franchises save a few, only really had a few first-party titles aside from ports, and had to share the third parties with Microsoft and the PC. Third verse, same as the first. Sure, this time things like Uncharted and Infamous weren't totally abandoned. Uncharted would get a very unpopular sequel and a port trilogy to the PS4, and Infamous would be soft rebooted with a new protagonist with Mega Man powers. As for the other franchises, aside from ports and remasters, and the new titles? I mean, Ghost of Tsushima is cool, I guess. Doesn't really scream PlayStation to me, though. Kind of looks like an Assassin's Creed game and plays a lot like Dark Souls. If it wasn't for my love and adoration of Sucker Punch Studios, I would not have known this isn't third party. Which brings us to today with the PlayStation 5. No mascot tier games, a ludicrously high price tag on games during a financial crisis, crippling hardware issues, and that's even if you can get your hand on a system due to severe availability issues since launch, and even until today when this video comes out. Bear in mind, I wrote this many weeks before it came out and recorded it a couple weeks before. I am damn certain this will still be the case when this video is out. So that was that. This was not so much a singular fall, but a continued and repeated mistake. One that not only was never learned from, but all the wrong moves were made in response. First time, it was ignored. Second time, they doubled down on their grudge. Third time, they projected their grudge onto Xbox. And the fourth and final time, they moved their headquarters to a socialist country. Had Sony even once thought about the long game, they would not be in the situation they're in now. Nor would they be forced to attend pride parades and have drag queens strip tease for minors on their float. Yes, that happened. And it's a shame too. Out of anyone, even more than Sega, they had the most potential to take Nintendo's crown. And now they will forever stand bitterly in their shadow. A pity.
Come on, where's your guts?
What's your problem, Mick?
My problem?
Yeah.
You got a problem, kid. You got a ticker problem. What's the matter? You got nothing left inside, huh? Because you're training like a damn bum, you know that?
Bum.
A bum!
Maybe you're right. Maybe I ain't got it no more.
All right, then don't you waste my time no more. You hear that? Go away, go back to the docks where you belong. You go back to being a two-bit nothing. But don't you ever come back here again, because I'm too old to waste my time trying to train a no-good loser like you, you bum!
It's been the Koopa Man. Game on. Hey everyone, so I hinted at something in this video and I might as well announce it now. These past few months I've been working on a big and long video series detailing the history of the video game consoles and the console wars, and their futility and evolution into PC gaming. That project has become so long and it will take time to develop. In fact, I'm just now getting to the Nintendo GameCube. While this is being recorded, I have 30 pages done. For reference sake, this video was 5 pages long. I hope when it does come out, you all will enjoy it, and this will in no way affect my schedule, as these will be in addition to my normal schedule of 4 videos a month, rather than getting in the way of anything. Anyway, when we get there, we'll get there. See you guys next episode.